I just finished applying my makeup, but I haven't done my eyebrows yet because when I look closely in the mirror, I realize that they're full of grays. So when you tint your eyebrows, you're tinting the grays, if you have any, and you're tinting the underlying skin. Unfortunately, for those like me that have some sparse gaps, the tint that stains the skin only lasts a few days, maybe a week or up to 10 days at the maximum. But the hair is another story. The tint will hold on to the hair shaft for a solid 4, 5, 6 weeks. And then one day you wake up, you look in the mirror, and your eyebrows are full of gnarly grays like mine. So when 1 or 2 come in, I have no problem covering them up with a little brow gel. But when 50 of them have invaded my eyebrow space, I need to pivot and do something about it. And in this case, I'm going to tint my eyebrows. Now, while I'm here, I may tackle some of those sparse areas in my brows. I don't feel like using 2 colors today. I'm just using the lighter of the 2 that work for me. I like to work with a dark brown and a medium brown. I usually never use just one color. I like to sort of mix it up. So this is what the tint looks like when it's mixed. It looks dark, but it's not gonna be that dark on my eyebrows. Because I want precision application, I'm gonna be using a dental applicator. You can get these online. I buy them by the thousands on Amazon. And they're really convenient because there's a small little cotton felt tip that makes it really easy to sort of get into those brow hairs. So let me get my magnification mirror because I can't see without it. So I just want to tackle my grays. I'm going to be brushing against the grain, but I'm not going to lie, I'm going to get a little bit on my skin, and there's one gray right here that's so stubborn. So the darker the tint, the higher the probability that it's going to cover those stubborn grays. The lighter the tint, and this is a medium brown versus a dark brown or even a black brown, the lower the probability that it's going to cover my grays. So sometimes stubborn grays just need a little bit of a darker color. So I'm hoping that this medium brown will work. If not, then, I'll just deal with it tomorrow. I don't feel like doing this again. I'll just deal with it and use my brow gel to cover up any grays. With my clients, I obviously go the extra mile. I take a few steps and they're with me for 45 minutes. So if they want their grays tackled, they leave there with not one gray, trust me, on their eyebrows. But for me, the watchmaker's watch is always broken, right? So it's never so perfect for me. And you know what? I kind of like my eyebrows unruly and not perfect, but I don't like the look of grays in my eyebrows and my scalp hair for that matter. So that matters to me. So when I take the time to groom my eyebrows, I hardly tweeze them. I never trim them, but I always tackle the grays because that's just what works for me. That's what I like. Now, what I'm doing is I'm picking up a good amount. I'm almost globbing it on my dental applicator so that I can slop it on. Literally, that's the word. I'm slopping it on this gray because I have this one gray right here. It grows longer than any hair on my eyebrow and it's very, very stubborn. Ugh, if it were black, it used to be dark, but now it's gray because, that's what happens as we age. Hair turns gray. And I have a lot of friends and clients that have gone gray on their scalp hair. And a lot of clients ask me this, even if your scalp is gray, you still want to maintain your eyebrows. In my opinion, you still want to dye your eyebrows, even if it's to remove some of the gray. My clients that come to me that have gone gray or are going gray always want their eyebrows tinted because when the eyebrows turn gray, they sort of get lost, right? And you don't want them to disappear on your face because I consider eyebrows part of the anatomy, like your nose, like your lips. So you don't want your eyebrows to sort of disappear on your face because then you lose all that facial balance. You want to keep them shaded. It's about juxtaposition between shadow and light. So the eyebrows are the most impactful shadow on the face. This is why we contour. This is why we wear eyeshadow and eyeliner and lip liner, to contour certain areas of the face. Wherever you have a shadow, you have a highlight, right? So I applied my contour here, so I'll have a highlight up here, down here. So it's about that juxtaposition that provides the features of our face with balance. And that's the goal, in my opinion. Beauty is about balance. Hey there, if you're learning something new, I'd love it if you would like and subscribe. It really supports my channel and it helps more people find this type of content. Let's get back to the video. It's about manipulating the features with shadow and light. It's not about using a lot of makeup. It's about strategic placement of that shadow and light, so that you can sort of manipulate things the way you want them to. So if you want to balance things out on the face, you have the ability to do that just by using that shadow and light. So again, I'm just going against the grain with my medium brown tint. I'm not being so precise here because I'm using my Q-tip to blur out the edges. And what I like to do sometimes also is to take a little bit of 70% alcohol and dilute some of that pigment in the bulb area. I'm not doing that today because I don't want the pigment to get diluted here in the brows, because this right in here and right in that section is where I get a lot of grays. And if I dilute that pigment, it may compromise dyeing those grays. So let's see how that goes. And if the skin under the brow is a little too dark because I didn't dilute it, then, you know, that's okay. It's not gonna last more than a few days. It's not permanent makeup. I am a permanent makeup artist. I'm a cosmetic tattooist. And when clients come to me for a consultation for permanent makeup, what I do is I do this. I apply a temporary tint to the eyebrows. First and foremost, it gives me a chance to have a conversation with the client. We talk about their brow goals, their realistic expectations. I like to see how the tint responds on their skin. Do they have really thick skin, oily skin? Does their skin absorb the pigment well? Is their skin difficult to absorb that pigment? Do they have any common skin conditions on their skin that can contraindicate the permanent makeup procedure? So although PMU is for beauty, to create a better version of your eyebrows, it's still a procedure nonetheless. So there are lots of questions, medical questions, health-related questions that have to be discussed first. And those conversations happen in my office when clients just come to me for brow shaping and temporary tinting, using this a temporary tint, just like I'm using today. And also, if after I remove the tint, it's a little too dark or a little too light, and let's say the client doesn't want their eyebrows so dark. They sort of want a watercolor sort of wash on their eyebrows. They want to sort of dip their toe into the PMU waters. They don't want that Sharpie marker brow, which is sort of a stigma, because back in the day, cosmetic tattooists of yesteryear used to drill that pigment into the eyebrows. Now it's much more of a nuanced process. It's an elegant execution. There's so many configurations, tools and techniques and dilution techniques that we use. So we've come a long way with cosmetic tattooing. I've been a cosmetic tattooist for over 15 years now. So in just that short amount of time, so much has changed in the industry. But it's not lost on me that there's a stigma, the Sharpie marker stigma, especially here in Miami, where a lot of cultures like to drill that tattoo in and maybe tattoo their eyeliner really thick and white, and you know, that's not my jam. That's not what you're gonna get in my office. After 10 minutes becomes inert. It's not going to make your eyebrows darker the longer you leave them on your eyebrows. But for first-time clients coming to me for either just temporary brow tinting or for a consultation for cosmetic tattooing, I never leave it for the full 10 minutes. I'll leave it maybe half the time, 5 minutes at most. And that'll tell me a lot. If there's nothing on their skin after a short amount of time, then we go in for a second layer. Sometimes, like a sponge, that client's skin really absorbs the pigment. And it tells me a lot about their skin, because at the end of the day, it's about the skin canvas. Cosmetic tattooing is not one size fits all. Microblading is tattooing as well, if you were wondering. It's just another tool that we have in our toolbox, right? There are many tools to execute the end goal, And microblading is simply one of those tools that we use. Not my favorite, not something I recommend, but you know, it does have its place, and I know many, many brilliant microblading artists out there. I'm not one of them. I'm just partial to machine, but I digress. Okay, so I'm gonna leave this on for another few minutes. I globbed that pigment onto some of those really stubborn grays. So let's see if it takes. I only applied about a pea-sized amount of pigment in my cup, and I mix equal parts of my pigment with the developer. Now, I'm not even sharing with you the product I'm using because it's a professional grade product. And if you are a professional watching this right now and you want to learn how to introduce brow shaping and temporary tinting to your office, to your studio, I have an online course that talks all about that. But for the regular average consumer that just wants to tackle their eyebrows at home, wants to tint their grays at home, I have a video that I'll link in the show notes that you can watch that talks all about an over-the-counter product that you can use and purchase at your local drugstore, reuse it over and over again. Very affordable, very easy to use. Same theory, you're mixing equal parts of the pigment with the developer, mixing it up in a little cup. I like to use these little cafecito cups. These are Cuban coffee cups. I buy these in bulk at the supermarket, and they work just fine. You can use a little glass reusable cup and wash it out, but I just choose to use these little disposable cups and call it a day. So the tint has been on for a solid, I would say, about 8 minutes. I never really time it. It's a feeling. I know when 10 minutes has presented itself, and it feels like it's been about 7 minutes. So I'm actually going to dip my Q-tip in the 70% alcohol, and I blot it on my paper towel. You never want to dip and apply to your face because you never want any alcohol dripping into your eyes. And I'm gonna just dilute the brow just in case. I don't want this to be so saturated. Remember, this is a no Sharpie zone. And so just in case, I'm sort of diluting it. You can already see how the pigment is starting to stain that underlying skin, which is really nice because it provides density in the eyebrows that wasn't there before. Now, by doing that, I've created sort of a little hole. So I'm gonna kind of scrape the pigment that I have left. I really don't feel like mixing more up, and it's not a big deal. If after I take this off, there's still a little gap there, you know, I'll just fill it in with my pencil, not a big deal. So I'm gonna just tap it into that little area, leave it alone, leave it on for another few minutes, get my alcohol, do the other side. I'm gonna dab the cotton on my paper towel, and I'm just tapping. You're literally just tapping your cotton on the skin, tapping, little taps. You don't want to wipe because you don't want to risk wiping away that pigment. And you see a lot of the pigment has transferred onto the cotton, and that's good. The goal here is to dye that underlying skin, but create a sort of ombre effect by diluting the brow. And it's a challenge because we're still trying to tackle those grays. So I have a swivel mirror here. It's 10x mag on one side and the other side is regular. And if I swivel it facing up at like a 45-degree angle, and if I sort of look down, sometimes you can see some of those grays that like to hide. I could sort of angle it in a way that allows me to get in there and really tackle those grays. You know, I'm really committed. Like, I want to tackle every single gray. Grays are not welcome in my eyebrows. You may like grays in your eyebrows, but not me. And if you're watching this right now, you probably don't welcome them either. But if I was just doing my eyebrows right now after applying my makeup and I didn't have time to tint them, and you're in between brow shaping appointments, you can just use a tinted brow gel. This one looks like a mascara wand. It's literally a brown gel that you coat the lashes with. Really no different than this, a mascara. So what I like to do when I apply my mascara, I could wipe my brow with the mascara wand, but I don't want to contaminate my mascara wand because there may be dust or debris in my eyebrows from the makeup that I've just applied. So I'll get a little dental applicator, a clean dental applicator, or even a toothpick, and I'll dip it into the mascara, and I'll literally coat those lashes, and it will last all day. it will literally last all day. So you can go out and get a brow gel. I prefer a clear brow gel. I love brow gels. I use them to hold my brows in place because my brows are long and they can get unruly. But to tint those individual little grays, if you have dark hair, I would just use your good old mascara, get a little toothpick or dental applicator, single out those grays and call it a day. Also, there's a product for eyebrows. I may use it later depending on how well the tint took to the underlying skin. But when you use a liquid product like this for your eyebrows, I love this product. It's really great. It's from Maybelline. It's called Build a Brow. Comes in all different colors. This one is a dark brown color. But when I'm applying it, sometimes you could even sort of coat some of those grays, and the marker effect will actually tint brow hairs as well sometimes. And so on that note, this is a liquid eyeliner that I actually have on my eyes today. It's also from Maybelline. It's called I can't see this. It's called Master Precise. And this liquid eyeliner is also great for singling out certain grays. Sometimes I'll just sit there and paint my grays. So products like these come in handy. Although this is for eyebrows, this is a liquid eyeliner. So at the end of the day, it's not really about the label. So makeup, it's just pigment. It's just pigment. So this is for eyebrows, but maybe it worked great for liquid eyeliner. Don't look at makeup at face value. If it can serve another purpose, then great. If you could invest your money on one product and use it 2 or 3 ways, then that's a win. Okay, so I think the tint is ready to be removed. I look a little like Groucho Marx right now, but not to worry. I have some cotton rounds here. They're dampened in just good old water. Water will neutralize the pigment. You could also use witch hazel. I don't recommend using alcohol, especially after you've tweezed your brows, because there may be some pinpoint microabrasion on the skin and the alcohol will cause irritation. But what I'm doing when I remove the pigment is don't be afraid to go against the grain and really scrub those eyebrows. You're not gonna rub the pigment off. You're just removing the excess. And when I get my clean cotton, you'll see there's hardly anything on there. I think that looks pretty good. And I did tackle most of the grays. This little gnarly one down here is so stubborn, and it's small because it's just growing in now. So I'll tackle that in a few days. I have 1 or 2 inside when I go against the grain. And that's probably from the fact that I used the medium brown. But listen, this is good. This is good because I didn't want my eyebrows to be so dark. Sometimes when I use the dark brown, they get too dark. And I don't mind certain parts of my brows being dark, but I like to manipulate and control the dark with washable brow products. When it comes to tint or even permanent makeup, I like to lean in to the lighter, more conservative side and then have control over the more dramatic colors. Okay, so again, I'm going in against the grain. I'm scrubbing, scrubbing, scrubbing with just water. And that's about it. If you want, you could also use a cotton swab to do this. If you don't want to mess up your makeup. I don't mind messing up my makeup because it's easy for me to just clean it up. Not a big deal. And now I'm scrubbing, scrubbing, scrubbing my eyebrows with my spoolie, just checking. That was fun, but we're not done yet. Let's kick the eyebrows up a notch and apply a little bit of washable makeup to take them to the next level. But before I do that, I'm getting that same concealer brush that I used a minute ago. And I'm just replenishing that makeup that rubbed off when I removed the tint. And I'm doing the same thing with my eyeshadow. I'm taking that same eyeshadow brush. So these are the brushes I used a minute ago, and they hold on to product. So I can always go back and reuse some of these brushes right now. So it's a really easy way to replenish my makeup. There, that's done. So I'm gonna be using my favorite brown eyebrow pencil. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna emphasize that bottom line. I'm just going into little small strokes. I'm not gonna pull my skin. I'm gonna gently place my finger at the end of my eyebrow and just hold the skin in place. And with the opposite hand, I'm just applying short strokes. I'm emphasizing that bottom line, This bottom line is the most important part of your eyebrow. And it's the line that sets the tone for the brow. And so I'm taking my spoolie brush and I'm just blending that line. You never want any harsh lines in the eyebrow. Okay, so I've just emphasized this bottom line. I've just tinted my eyebrows. They look fine, but right here, right on the top, you see a little bit of skin. I call that line 1 of the eyebrow. Right here, I want a little bit of density, but I don't want it so dark. I'm partial to pencils that need to be sharpened versus retractable eyebrow pencils. Don't get me wrong, I love retractable eyebrow pencils, but the advantage of the sharpened pencil is that you can use this pencil in various ways. So right now, the tip is where I use to really lay down a good amount of pigment with a pretty firm hand on that bottom line to emphasize that bottom line. But I don't want that level of intensity on the top line of my eyebrow. I want to keep that top area soft and gradient. So I'm using the actual side of my pencil. So I'm holding it this way. I'm using the side of the pencil and I'm just very lightly, it's almost like a tickle on the skin. And just very lightly applying that pencil, and see, it's a lot lighter. And then let me take the spoolie brush, and then I'll blend it with my spoolie brush. And if I blended too much off, then I'll put a little bit more on this way. And it's a really easy way to softly dust some pencil into your eyebrows. It almost mimics the look of a powder, but what I like about pencil is that it has more stay power. On my skin anyway. And this really depends on your skin type. If you have really oily skin and you find that brow pigments just melt off by the end of the day or after an hour even, you may want to use a brow pomade like this one. This is from Anastasia, but so many lines have this kind of product where it's a sort of gel. You get an angled brush or a small precision brush. You dip it in the pigment. I always like to blot first on a paper towel or the back of your hand and then apply it into the eyebrows. That is great if you want your eyebrows to last all day, if you have thick, oily brows. But although I do have oily skin, my eyebrows don't have a problem holding on to pigment. Nevertheless, so this eyebrow has the pencil and this one has nothing. This one looks fine, but this one looks better, right? It just looks a little better. And I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but it's just a little bit more defined, I think. And, you know, I like that. I like having precise, defined brows. Even if I'm going to the market, even if I'm staying home, it doesn't matter. I do my eyebrows like this every day. It makes me happy. So I'm doing the same thing with a firm hand. I'm going into that bottom line. So because I'm right-handed, I'm sort of like, trying to hold my skin in place. The skin around the eyes is the thinnest skin of the human body. So you really want to make sure that you never tug or pull on the skin. I mean, sometimes you have to tug and pull, right? When you're removing your makeup or doing some other things, but you want to do so intentionally. So that perpetual pulling of the skin has elasticity, right? Like an elastic band. And over time, what happens to a rubber band? It gets loose. Same theory applies with the skin. So you want to make sure to maintain that elasticity in the skin by just treating it really gently. And so I'm, again, taking the flat part of my pencil. At this point, the pencil is not sharp. For some reason, it's just the perfect color. It's the perfect brown. And the pencils I have in front of me right now on my makeup table, some are too ashy, some are too red. I don't know. It's just like, this is the right brown for me. These are the things that keep me up at night, trust me. My husband educates me on the news, which is why I don't watch the news, because I don't want to be kept up at night with the violence of the world. I'd rather stick with my beauty news. Makes me happy. Okay, so we're done. I think we're good. We're good. You know, I don't need to use this, but I talked about it earlier, so I want to show you how I use it. And the reason why I don't need to use it right now is because I just tinted my eyebrows. I have a lot of sparse gaps here in the bulbs. I'm a child of the 80s. I over tweezed And although my eyebrows did come back significantly, and I feed them every day with a brow growth serum, I would have eyebrows, but they wouldn't be the way they look right now. But it's not enough to fill in my bulbs, but my bulbs are still a little sparse. Not only did I tint them with my semi-permanent tint, but then I also apply that little pencil. So my bulbs are filled with density. But when they have nothing, I like to use this little marker from Maybelline. So what I like to do is hold it with the point facing down, and you're just tickling your eyebrow with the tip of the product. And it's great because it makes these little hair strokes. And I like to place those hair strokes in the bulb where I'm missing some hairs and I have some gaps. I don't like to see skin through my eyebrows. I like to see density. We have to create that density. And so right now I've just changed the positioning of this pen and I'm holding it towards me. So the point is facing me at 90 degrees. And that's another way you can easily manipulate this. You want to use a really light hand. You don't want to put it on so firmly because it'll be messy. Think of it like a marker. The tip is beautiful. This is my second or third one, and the tip stays pointy throughout. And so that is it. My eyebrows are ready to go. Time to take off my gloves. And for the record, I wear gloves because the tint will stain my nails. So if you tint your eyebrows at home, you definitely want to protect your nails if that's something that's important to you. Even if you don't have nail polish, it'll stain your fingertips and you don't want that. That'll look unsightly. You'll have beautiful brows, but then you'll have stained fingertips. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comment below. I'm gonna go out now and walk my dog, and maybe I'll see some neighbors in the neighborhood because it's Miami and everyone is walking their dog at this time. So undoubtedly, I'm gonna go meet up with all my neighbors. So have a great day. I'll see you soon. Mwah. Ciao for now.